arriving one after the other. Dinghy boats form a steady line as they approach the coast of Lampedusa after a journey across the Mediterranean Sea.
It is just a station, an unwelcome place to transit through if you can. But so many are coming now. Macedonia today declared a state of emergency.
Italy has long been a pivotal gateway to Europe, a land where the Mediterranean Sea touches both shores of migration hopes and the treacherous perils of crossing. For decades, the country grappled with waves of immigrants and refugees fleeing war, persecution, and economic despair. The challenge seemed insurmountable, threatening Italy's social fabric, economic stability, and political landscape. Yet in recent years, Italy has turned the tide on this crisis through a series of innovative and humane strategies that could serve as a model for the rest of the world.
Giorgia Meloni had made curbing immigration a centrepiece of her election campaign 1 year ago, previously calling for a physical blockade to prevent boats from leaving African shores. And as migrants head further north into Europe, leaders are pressuring Meloni to respect EU asylum rules. Germany says it will no longer voluntarily accept refugees coming from Italy.
This narrative explores the multifaceted approach Italy adopted to address and ultimately fix its immigration crisis. Before we start, hit the like and subscribe buttons for more exclusive news. Italy's strategic location in the heart of the Mediterranean has historically made it a prime destination for migrants from North Africa and the Middle East. The peak of the immigration crisis came in the early 2010s, particularly after the Arab Spring in 2011 and the subsequent Syrian civil war. Thousands of migrants and refugees embarked on perilous journeys across the sea, often on overcrowded and unseaworthy vessels. Italy, as the nearest safe haven, bore the brunt of this influx. The Lampedusa tragedy in October 2013, where a boat carrying over 500 migrants sank, resulting in more than 360 deaths, marked a turning point.
There was about 400 dead body, blood anywhere. Can't imagine.
It highlighted the urgent need for comprehensive solutions beyond emergency responses and humanitarian aid. Italy was not just facing a humanitarian crisis, but also political and social upheaval, with rising anti-immigrant sentiments and strain on its resources. In the immediate aftermath of the crisis, Italy's initial responses were primarily reactive.
Unimaginable also the scale of the arrivals on land and sea. This year alone adding 340,000 people to the population of Europe.
The Mare Nostrum operation, launched in 2013, was a military and humanitarian mission aimed at saving lives at sea. While it succeeded in rescuing thousands, it also faced criticism for allegedly encouraging more migrants to attempt the dangerous crossing, hoping to be rescued.
The island is the first port of call for many people fleeing from northern Africa, as they attempt to make their way further into Europe. But the tiny isle is overwhelmed by recent arrivals. Over the course of 24 hours, around 6,800 migrants disembarked from 120 boats. That's a few hundred people more than Lampedusa's full-time population.
The European Union's subsequent Frontex-led Operation Triton in 2014 aimed to replace Mare Nostrum, but with a narrower focus on border control rather than search and rescue. This shift left Italy and other frontline states feeling abandoned, as the crisis was not merely a border issue, but a complex humanitarian challenge.
Outside, we join a briefing being held by the Red Cross.
What's the Red Cross's message to politicians, to the EU? What are you calling for?
Well, we are not making policy during these days. It's not the job of the Red Cross. What we're doing here is to support people in need and to go beyond the numbers and considering each of them as a human being that needs help.
But it's over capacity, so you need more help.
The capacity of the center is not the matter. The real the real mechanism that must work is this fact of the transfer very quickly.
Italy also struggled with integrating the large numbers of newcomers. The reception centers were often overcrowded and underfunded, leading to deplorable living conditions. The lack of a cohesive EU-wide policy meant that Italy had to shoulder the burden largely on its own, exacerbating internal divisions and fueling populist rhetoric. Recognizing that short-term measures were insufficient, Italy embarked on a strategic shift, emphasizing comprehensive and humane policies.
Out of over 12,400 takeover requests to Italy this year, 10 transfers have taken place. So for now, we will no longer be sending our teams to Italy to conduct interviews.
This approach involved a blend of international cooperation, legal reforms, economic incentives, and social integration programs. Italy realized that addressing the root causes of migration was crucial. This meant engaging in diplomacy with countries of origin and transit. Italy strengthened its partnerships with North African countries, particularly Libya, to combat human trafficking and improve conditions for migrants in transit. These agreements, although controversial, aimed to dismantle smuggling networks and provide migrants with safer alternatives. In 2017, the Italian government, in collaboration with the United Nations and the European Union, launched the Africa Fund. This initiative aimed to invest in development projects in African countries to create economic opportunities and reduce the incentive for people to migrate out of necessity. By addressing the push factors of migration, Italy hoped to manage the flow more sustainably. Italy also reformed its legal framework to streamline the asylum process and ensure that genuine refugees receive protection while curbing abuses of the system.
Magupta is in southern Italy. She told us more on just why the government declared the state of emergency now.
Some 31,000 or so migrants have arrived here in Italy on the sea route in the last couple of months of this year. Now, compare that to 2021 and 2022, it's 4 times the number. There were some 8,000 or so arrivals in the same period in the last 2 years. So on Monday alone, the Coast Guard here in Italy helping 2 boat arrivals, there was 1,200 people on board. The reception center on the tiny island of Lampedusa, which is physically, geographically closer to Tunisia than it is to mainland Italy. That reception center can deal with some 350 to 400 people, and on certain days they've had some 3,000 people there. And so they've had to move these people with chartered boats onto Sicily itself or onto the mainland of Italy just to deal with them. Now, the UN Refugee Agency has come up with some reasons as to why there's been this surge of figures. The first of all is the fact that there's been better weather. Better weather means also that the people smugglers are pushing for more boats to carry more people across and make this incredibly dangerous journey. But with increased temperatures, it's easier for them to do that.
The Miniti-Orlando Decree, passed in 2017, introduced measures to speed up asylum procedures and increase the capacity of immigration courts. This not only reduced the backlog of cases, but also ensured that those in need of protection received timely support. Moreover, Italy enhanced its cooperation with the European Asylum Support Office, EASO, to harmonize asylum procedures with EU standards. This cooperation included training programs for Italian officials and sharing best practices across member states. The aim was to ensure that Italy's asylum system was both fair and efficient, providing protection to those who qualified while deterring fraudulent claims. One of the most significant challenges Italy faced was the integration of migrants and refugees into society. To address this, Italy developed a comprehensive integration strategy that included language training, education, and employment programs. Language acquisition was identified as a key barrier to integration. The government, in partnership with non-governmental organizations and local communities, set up language schools and cultural orientation programs. These initiatives were designed to help newcomers understand Italian society, their rights and responsibilities. Education for migrant children was another critical area. Italy implemented policies to ensure that children of migrants had access to the same quality of education as Italian children. Special programs were introduced to support students with language difficulties and to facilitate their integration into the mainstream education system. On the employment front, Italy recognized that economic independence was vital for the successful integration of migrants.
كم يوم على المركب؟ 25 ساعة يعني من امبارح يعني. So those guys there are Egyptian lads from Alexandria in the north of Egypt. They've been on the boat for 25 hours. They arrived yesterday. They set off through the night. Now they're going on this big commercial liner which is taking them off Lampedusa, and they'll next go to onwards to Sicily before being distributed throughout Italy.
The government introduced job training and apprenticeship programs tailored to the needs of the labor market. Collaborations with private sector companies created pathways for migrants to gain meaningful employment, thus contributing to the economy and reducing dependency on social services. Central to Italy's success in managing the immigration crisis has been the role of civil society and local communities.
Italian authorities say its reception centres are overcrowded, and that part of the reason for the increase was a bottleneck in Tunisia's ports, where smugglers were prevented from launching boats for several days because of the rough seas. For now, in an attempt to ease overcrowding, hundreds of migrants are being transferred to Sicily.
Grassroots organizations, faith-based groups, and volunteers have been instrumental in providing support and fostering social cohesion. Initiatives like the Humanitarian Corridors Project, spearheaded by religious organizations, exemplify this collaboration. The project facilitated the safe and legal entry of vulnerable refugees from conflict zones, bypassing dangerous smuggling routes.
At the port, we catch a ferry about to depart. Repurposed to transfer migrants, it's been taking hundreds of people off the island the past days, 370 today. Their boats loaded with them.
Upon arrival, these refugees received comprehensive support, including housing, language classes, and psychological counseling. Local municipalities also played a crucial role. The SPRAR, Protection System for Asylum Seekers and Refugees network, involving local authorities, provided decentralized reception and integration services. This localized approach ensured that support was tailored to the specific needs of communities and helped to prevent the ghettoization of migrants. A significant hurdle in addressing the immigration crisis was the rise of anti-immigrant sentiments and populist politics. To counter this, Italy embarked on a dual strategy of public education and inclusive policies. Public awareness campaigns were launched to highlight the positive contributions of migrants to Italian society. These campaigns showcased success stories of migrants who had successfully integrated and were contributing to their communities. The aim was to humanize migrants and challenge the negative stereotypes perpetuated by certain political groups. Inclusive policies also played a crucial role. By ensuring that migrants had access to basic services and opportunities for integration, Italy reduced the sense of marginalization that often fuels resentment and social tension. The government's emphasis on social cohesion and mutual respect helped to foster a more inclusive society. The multifaceted approach adopted by Italy has yielded significant results. The number of migrants arriving by sea has dramatically decreased, from over 181,000 in 2016 to just over 23,000 in 2018.
We had a big increase of the arrivals of migrants this summer. We are more or less with the numbers we had in 2016, which was an exceptional year. What seems to be a bit different is that now we do have a different government, more right-wing, more anti-migration.
This decline can be attributed to a combination of enhanced border controls, international cooperation, and improved conditions in countries of origin and transit. Moreover, the integration programs have shown promising outcomes. Migrants who participated in language and job training programs have higher employment rates and are better integrated into their communities. This not only benefits the migrants themselves, but also contributes to Italy's economy and social stability.
This tiny camp, no longer than 200 meters, has been thrust into the international political arena. After last week's surge, Italy's Giorgia Meloni visited the island with EU chief Ursula von der Leyen, announcing a 10-point plan, firm in language but light on detail. Meloni's government called the arrivals an invasion and an act of war. Fiery language, but it seems to have brought attention and more resources. Meanwhile, the EU is preparing to transfer €1 billion to nearby autocratic Tunisia to bolster its economy and stop boats leaving. Cracks, however, have been exposed in European cooperation. The French government has now said it will refuse to take arrivals from Lampedusa.
Italy's efforts have also been recognized internationally. The country has been praised for its innovative and humane approach to managing migration. The partnerships with international organizations and other countries have strengthened Italy's position as a leader in addressing global migration challenges. Despite the progress, Italy continues to face challenges. The political landscape remains volatile, with periodic surges in anti-immigrant rhetoric. The situation in North Africa, particularly Libya, remains unstable, posing ongoing risks of new waves of migration. To sustain its progress, Italy must continue to invest in both domestic integration programs and international cooperation. Strengthening the European Union's role in migration management is also crucial. A more cohesive EU policy would ensure that frontline states like Italy are not left to manage the crisis alone. Italy's experience offers valuable lessons for other countries grappling with migration issues. The key takeaways are the importance of a comprehensive approach that includes international cooperation, legal reforms, economic and social integration, and community engagement.
Maybe after 2 or 3 summers like this one, there will be a realization that what is being done now, the hundreds of millions of euros that are being spent on prohibition and fences, etc., is simply not going to work.
By addressing the root causes of migration and fostering an inclusive society, Italy has demonstrated that it is possible to manage migration humanely and effectively. While Italy's progress in handling the immigration crisis is commendable, the journey towards a fully integrated and harmonious society requires sustained effort and innovative strategies. Building on the foundations of legal reforms, international cooperation, and social integration programs, Italy continues to develop long-term strategies to address the evolving dynamics of migration. Education remains a cornerstone of successful integration. Italy's focus on ensuring that children of migrants receive quality education has yielded positive results, but there is always room for improvement. Continued investment in education infrastructure, teacher training, and curriculum development is essential.
Last week, Lampedusa was overwhelmed with arrivals. Residents distributed food and water. Others protested that they're out of patience. In 3 days, 8,000 people arrived around the clock, more than the population of the island, and 20 times the capacity of the migrant center.
Special attention should be given to creating inclusive classroom environments where diversity is celebrated and students are encouraged to learn from each other's cultural backgrounds. For adults, skill development programs are crucial. Italy has already made strides in this area, but expanding these programs to cover a broader range of skills and industries can further enhance the employability of migrants. Vocational training centers can offer courses in areas with high labor demand, such as technology, healthcare, and construction. Collaborating with private sector companies to create apprenticeship and internship opportunities can provide practical experience and facilitate smoother transitions into the workforce.
On top of that, of course, it's the uncertain political situation. They've seen that the number of arrivals, they're coming more instead from Libya, as they have in previous years. Now there are more arrivals from Tunisia, which is closer. It takes 1 night, 1 day, in effect, to make that journey across. A very dangerous journey, but it's a shorter time.
Community engagement is vital for fostering social cohesion. Local communities and civil society organizations have played a pivotal role in Italy's integration efforts, and their continued involvement is essential. Community centers can serve as hubs for cultural exchange, language classes, and social activities that bring together migrants and locals. These centers can host events such as cultural festivals, food fairs, and storytelling sessions where people share their experiences and traditions. Mentorship programs pairing migrants with local residents can also facilitate integration. Mentors can help newcomers navigate the complexities of Italian society, from understanding bureaucratic processes to finding housing and employment. These personal connections can build trust and create lasting bonds between migrants and their host communities.
We take a trip to see it. We're the first international journalists to be let inside. It's managed by the Red Cross, and police have been drafted in from across Italy. We're told people are free to leave, but we don't see anyone do so. It feels like they've tidied up the place and thrown us a party. We try to speak to some of the migrants, but each time we're stopped from doing so, and they won't explain why.
Stop, please, stop them outside. I will tell you. You are go away, yeah? Okay. It's impossible.
Access to healthcare is a fundamental right and a critical component of successful integration. Migrants often face barriers to healthcare, including language barriers, lack of information, and discrimination. Italy must ensure that healthcare services are accessible and culturally sensitive. This includes training healthcare providers on cultural competence and providing interpretation services to bridge language gaps. Mental health support is equally important. Many migrants have experienced trauma and stress related to their journeys and the challenges of adapting to a new country. Providing mental health services that are accessible and tailored to the needs of migrants can significantly improve their well-being and ability to integrate. Community-based mental health programs and peer support groups can offer safe spaces for individuals to share their experiences and receive support. Adequate housing is a cornerstone of stability and integration. Italy has faced challenges with overcrowded reception centers and inadequate housing for migrants. Long-term housing solutions are needed to ensure that migrants have access to safe and affordable accommodation. Social housing projects can provide permanent housing options, reducing dependency on temporary shelters. Urban planning plays a crucial role in preventing the ghettoization of migrant communities. Mixed-income housing developments can promote social diversity and prevent the isolation of migrant populations. These developments should be designed with access to public services, transportation, and employment opportunities in mind. Migrants are not a homogeneous group, and different individuals face unique challenges. Women, children, and vulnerable groups such as the elderly and disabled migrants require targeted support. Women, in particular, may face additional barriers related to gender discrimination and traditional roles. Italy must ensure that integration programs address these specific needs. Programs that empower migrant women through education, vocational training, and entrepreneurship can enhance their economic independence and social integration. Providing childcare services and flexible work opportunities can help women balance their responsibilities and pursue their goals. While Italy has made significant progress in reducing irregular migration, the issue persists, and human trafficking remains a serious concern. Strengthening border controls and international cooperation is essential, but so is addressing the underlying causes that drive people into the hands of traffickers. Italy's partnerships with countries of origin and transit must continue to focus on dismantling smuggling networks and providing alternatives to irregular migration. This includes enhancing legal pathways for migration, such as work visas and humanitarian corridors, which can offer safe and regulated means for people to move. Creating more legal pathways for migration is a critical aspect of managing migration effectively. Italy can expand its work visa programs to include sectors with labor shortages, allowing migrants to enter the country legally and contribute to the economy. Seasonal work programs, for example, can be extended to cover a broader range of industries, providing opportunities for temporary migration with the possibility of renewal. Regularization programs for undocumented migrants who have established lives in Italy can also be beneficial. Offering pathways to legal status for those who have integrated into society, such as through employment or family connections, can reduce the number of people living in the shadows and contribute to social cohesion. To sustain its progress, Italy must build resilient and inclusive institutions capable of adapting to changing migration dynamics. This involves continuous training and capacity building for public officials, social workers, and law enforcement agencies. It also means fostering a culture of inclusion and respect for diversity within these institutions. Technology can play a role in enhancing the efficiency and accessibility of services for migrants. Digital platforms can streamline processes such as visa applications, asylum procedures, and access to social services. These platforms should be user-friendly and available in multiple languages to ensure that migrants can navigate them easily. Regular monitoring and evaluation of integration programs are essential to ensure their effectiveness and identify areas for improvement. Italy should establish robust mechanisms for collecting data on the outcomes of its integration initiatives. This data can inform policy adjustments and the allocation of resources. Feedback from migrants themselves is invaluable. Surveys, focus groups, and consultations with migrant communities can provide insights into their experiences and needs. Involving migrants in the design and implementation of integration programs can lead to more effective and inclusive solutions. Italy's success in managing the immigration crisis highlights the importance of international solidarity. The country's efforts have been supported by partnerships with international organizations, other EU member states, and countries of origin and transit. Strengthening these partnerships is crucial for addressing the global nature of migration. Italy can play a leading role in advocating for a more cohesive and fair EU migration policy. Sharing best practices and lessons learned with other countries can contribute to a more coordinated and effective approach to migration management across Europe.
And so a lot of them are making this journey because of the political and economic situation in Tunisia. First off, the economic crisis that the country is dealing with, as well as politically, there's been a crackdown on sub-Saharan Africans in that country by the leadership there. And so a lot of them are being forced to flee.
Italy's experience demonstrates that collaboration and solidarity are essential for tackling the complex challenges of migration. Italy's journey from crisis to a model of migration management offers valuable lessons for the global community. As migration continues to be a pressing issue worldwide, Italy's experience can serve as a blueprint for other countries facing similar challenges. The key elements of Italy's approach, comprehensive and humane policies, international cooperation, legal reforms, economic and social integration, and community engagement are universally applicable.
So warn Italy's political leaders. Closer to North Africa than the mainland, Lampedusa is just 7 miles long. A tourist idyll and a key gateway for would-be migrants who seek Europe. Nearly 130,000 have arrived to Italy so far this year, double last year's number.
Countries around the world can draw inspiration from Italy's successes and adapt these strategies to their specific contexts. Addressing the root causes of migration, ensuring fair and efficient asylum processes, and fostering social cohesion are essential components of any effective migration policy. Moreover, Italy's experience underscores the importance of political will and leadership. Tackling migration requires courage, compassion, and a commitment to human rights and dignity. It also requires building consensus and fostering a shared vision among diverse stakeholders. As a member of the European Union, Italy's experience is particularly relevant for shaping EU migration policy. The EU has a critical role to play in supporting member states and fostering a more coordinated and unified approach to migration.
Through the fence, we managed to speak with Ahmed from Egypt. He's waiting to be transferred. How long did you spend on the boat?
3 days.
Was it difficult?
Yeah.
Hard?
Yes.
Why?
It was hard because, it was just hard.
We're interrupted by 2 soldiers, who Ahmed is quick to reassure.
He's asking me how things are, and I'm telling him everything's fine and we're being provided for and so on.
I asked to talk with others, but Ahmed tells me they're too scared to speak.
Italy's successes and challenges can inform the development of a common EU asylum system and shared responsibility for managing migration flows. The EU can enhance its support for frontline states like Italy through funding, capacity building, and sharing best practices.
Back in town, locals are celebrating the annual festival for the island's patron saint, Madonna di Porto Salvo, Mary, protector of seafarers. Here we find the island's mayor, freshly returned from calling for aid at the United Nations in New York.
The
island has been living with this phenomenon for 30 years now. But to outsiders, there is a perception that there's complete chaos here. Islands in collapse, islands under attack. This is not the case.
Isola al collasso, isola presa d'assalto. Non è così. Tutti dicono di voler cambiare il regolamento di Dublino.
I'm not the one who can decide a solution because I'm just the mayor of a small island. But we have to choose whether to treat people all the same or not. Whether they are Ukrainians fleeing war or Africans fleeing war and persecution.
A fair distribution of responsibilities among member states is essential to ensure that no single country bears a disproportionate burden. Italy's experience demonstrates that solidarity and cooperation are key to managing migration effectively within the EU. If you liked this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, could you leave your comments below and tell us? What changes do you expect from Italy's new immigration policies? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.